Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Be wary of statements like always, never, everybody, nobody. These are absolutes. Rarely you have absolutes, especially in social science. In this case, we have one article that tells us that one nation, the entire country is fighting against one ideology, bad ideology, mind you, and that is the far-right ideology. The country is Austria. I have one article discussing this garbage, and I have a few more articles, maybe to show those guys who wrote the first article why you have a reaction, because you have an action. So let me show you the first topic or the first article coming from European Pravda. Doesn't really matter the source, the garbage is coming from the West. How Austria unites against the far right and what challenges it faces. So Austria, the country, the entire country, not some Austrians, no, Austria unites against the far right and what challenges it faces. So Austria is going through an unusual situation, unusual maybe according to you and your preferences. The pro-Russian far-right party, pro-Russian, that won the parliamentary elections did not receive the mandate to form the government. All right, so did you hear what this guy say? So the party who won a majority in Austria, but hey, Austria unites against that. And that little party won about 30%. And that is the far-right Freedom Party right here, Freedom Party of Austria, won the elections with 29%, let's say 30% of the vote. Then we have the communists right here, and the other communists together with 26 and 21. So how in the hell Austria unites when you have 1/3 of the adult population, 1/3 of the adult population, or whomever voted, in favor of one ideology, and they're growing. So if you look at the trend, that far-right ideology goes up while the communists and the imbeciles go down. So Austria unites against the far right, or some Austrians unite against the far right, and the far right unites against the imbeciles. Which one is it? Both ways. But you say that Austria unites, that is misleading. That's misinformation, or I think it's disinformation. Why? Because they know it. They mention it in the article. So is European Pravda going to be banned from, I don't know, United States of America's, airwaves, or wherever you want to promote that? No. Why? Because it seems like you can disinform, you can misinform as far as you are doing it in the right direction. I'm sorry, in the left direction. Now, let me show you, maybe the far right had this 30% is a success, however you want to look at it. It's 1/3 of the whole vote, and the other guys have the rest. They didn't form, why? Because they couldn't form a coalition yet. But it's coming, unless these guys are going to ban it. So let me show you an article that maybe helps understand why the far right goes like this and not like that. Here is an article from Russia Today. Boeing, Boeing gets rid of diversity department. Well, maybe meritocracy returns into Boeing. The plane makers, DEI, not only the plane makers, it makes a lot of weapons as well. DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Garbage. Staff has reportedly been reassigned to new positions amid a major workforce overhaul. Now, that's one. I will give you a direct example, direct experience. Hey, you fell, baby doll? Why didn't you say so? All right. In the state of Michigan, in the government of the state of Michigan, where I'm very familiar with the policies over there, very familiar, directly involved in those, being a subordinate. When this garbage came into place, DEI I'm talking about, am I allowed to say that? I don't think so. Why? It's the wrong opinion or preference towards that. Therefore, you can't have it. Or assessment. When that came into being, while I was in the office, they said that, diversity, equity, inclusion, they were using for some officers. That's how I think they were called, officers. Like the comrades, like the, how do you call those guys? Commissars, officers, commissars. So I looked as an offering. It was a job offering. If you can go on michigan.gov over there and you can find the job postings. And that was one posting with 84 or 85, I think it was $84,000 a year job for an equity, inclusion, diversity, blah, blah, blah officer. The requirements were a bachelor degree in, I don't know, planting flowers or something. And you had to have experience with, I don't know what I mean. Yeah. Okay. Well, I qualified for that. Why? Because I was an immigrant. But I was this kind of immigrant. So I didn't apply for that because I can't eat garbage every day. Sometimes I can, but not too much. You know what I mean? So I said, no, but curious enough, the entry level a few years ago was $84,000. So don't you think that people like me, or maybe the Native Americans, the ones that were born here, that's what I'm talking about, these guys looking over, what do you mean $84,000 for that kind of garbage? Don't you think that those guys should vote to the other side and maybe join the evil far right? So okay, that's one article. Let me show you another one. And that comes again from Russia Today. Georgia, the country of Georgia, pledges no surrender to LGBTQ plus minus law. The EU has warned that legislation prohibiting the promotion of same-sex relations could prevent the country's integration into the bloc. You got it? So what do you think could be the reaction to that? So that's a policy in the European Union that you have to go that way. If you don't, we're going to punish you. Action, reaction. And I'm going to show you the last two articles. This is just a mild, gently reminder. I can bring thousands of articles related to this situation. Russia Today again. Jesus Christ, these guys are bad. Yeah, according to these guys here, yes, they're bad. King Arthur, our King Arthur, could have been LGBT, British Council. So, I like when my civilization, my culture is hijacked by a foreign, imbecilic ideology. So, King Arthur could have been LGBT, British Council decides. A Welsh county has included the mythical ruler in a local educational base, citing a tale in which he wore women's clothing. A Welsh council has included King Arthur in a timeline of LGBTQ history, citing a legend that the fabled ruler once wore women's clothing. Local media have reported the legendary monarch, who is said to have ascended to the throne by pulling his sword Excalibur out of a stone and then ruling Britain with the help of the Knights of the Round Table and the wizard Merlin, was included in a local educational resource, Dangingshire, that documents key moments, quote unquote, in LGBTQ history. The timeline, which tells stories of sexual orientation and gender identity, is based on the work of LGBTQ-focused historian Norenna Shopland, whose research is backed by Swansea University. The initiative forms part of the training in LGBTQ plus language and history. I'm not going to read more. I think it's enough so far. So what do you think about that one? You know what they like? they like to mention only good things. But let me give you some bad things. They love to mention Alexander the Great. And they mention it and say he was, had some relationships and so on, same-sex relationships. And he was a great ruler. But when they mention the burning of, let's say, Persepolis, remember? Then he's the bad dude. But they don't mention then that he was a, okay? And many other examples like this. So when they're going to say, oh, Alexander the Great, Western civilization, is a megalomaniac, they're not going to mention the other side. Why? It depends on what they want to destroy. If they want to destroy our civilization, they say he was a crazy, narcissistic, megalomaniac, criminal, and so on. When they want to show that, hey, we were like this, is going to mention that. So pick and choose. That's not justice. That's not research. That's not knowledge. Again, they are taking a shit on our history, our culture, our civilization. Who's they? Well, it's not hard to figure it out. I will give you a few clues, maybe one or two. Why is Germany invaded, and who wants to destroy them? Well, maybe you can look in the past 80 years to a certain event. They want to up someone. So that's a clue. That's enough. Next one, and the last article, I'm going to show you the really bad dudes, the really, really bad dudes right here. Sputnik. Russian schools teach about family values while Western install drag show, according to Sputnik. I don't think this video will fly. Maybe it's going to go underground like a mole. Like that. A new academic year in Russia kicked off on September 1st. This year will see an array of new subjects to preserve and strengthen traditional values among children. The course Fundamentals of Security and Defense of the Motherland is being introduced to teach pupils basic military skills and tactical fire and engineering exercises. The course of Family Studies is designed to teach pupils about family values, building relations with relatives, basics of the family, psychological health, and measures of state support for families. Got that? Meanwhile, Western schools indulging in neoliberal values. The U.S. Teaching Tolerance Program, founded in 1991, holds conferences and publishes books for the school teachers to provide, and I'm quoting, practices for serving LGBTQ students, end quote. In April, the Biden administration issued new rules outing schools' obligations under Title IX, the federal law prohibiting, end quote, sex-based discrimination, end quote, including attempts to bar transgender students from using bathrooms and playing in sports teams of their gender, not sex, gender, end quote. In 2021, 6 U.S. states, namely California, New Jersey, Colorado, Oregon, Illinois, and Nevada, passed an LGBTQ+ inclusive curriculum legislation that requires schools to include, and I'm quoting, right, LGBTQ+ people and identities in history and social science programs. I think I rest my case. Now, we can pick and choose, my friends, but they are not a majority, but they implement laws. How is that possible? I thought the laws are implemented, are made when you have a majority. I thought the democracy, the demos, the people rule. How is that possible? That's why they don't allow referenda in the United States of America, because people will vote differently, opposite of how their elected officials would vote and implement laws. We are under a cultural occupation. So, yeah, you might not like the Russians, but I think they protect something that we are destroying. Yeah, Austria is fighting united against 1/3 of its population. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.